Thank you, Rick.
Can you hear me okay? Good. Thanks very much. James's. James I. James squared. Yeah, whatever it is. Glad to be here. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll tell you a little bit about Nserc and some of the programs that we offer. And I'd welcome questions at any point, and also at the end for things that I didn't cover. So for myself, I have worked at Nserc now for 7 years. When we opened the office in Vancouver, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. My own background is I studied chemistry and then accounting, and so that makes me the exciting person that I am. And then also, for about 3 terms, a long time ago, I taught at Bcit. Actually got one small check from Bcit for teaching a 3-hour night class that somebody in your business school wrote me into, and it was how to finance R&D, which was to people taking night business schools with a technology focus. And it was fun. And I mean, when you teach those night courses, you realize how you're getting ripped off because the amount of hours you put in to get your one module together and then actually come out that night and then talk, and then a check for about $70 or something shows up, and I was going, oh my God, that was a lot of work. But it was fun. I think like James had mentioned, Nserc is one of the 3 big granting agencies. So we support natural sciences engineering, and we do it roughly 3 different ways, and that is discovery-based research, basic research, fundamental research, whatever term you want to pick. And the other way we look at it is training the next generation of scientists and engineers. So that's the programs that we give to students, and that's everything from an undergraduate up to a postdoc. And then the area that I work in is where we do academic industry research partnerships. And so that's one of the 3-legged stool of Nserc. And Maureen was asking me just while somebody else was talking and we were rudely interrupting the person in front of us about questions to do with the discovery part of it. I will try and answer those if you have them, but it's not the area of Nserc that I work in. And so if I sort of can answer those questions, I will be more than happy to find someone to connect you with that does deliver those particular aspects of our programs. Nserc is a mini splendid thing. This is kind of interesting. A couple pieces of this jump out at me these days. The innovation part is what we refer to as research partnerships programs. So if you look at it, we're now 30% of a $1.1 billion budget, which is an awful lot of money that we're entrusted with to make investments. The other thing that's really significant to me is when I started at Nserc, the research partnership portfolio, or innovation part of it, was 22% of $850 million. So we've baked a bigger pie, and we've cut up the pie in a slightly different way. And so I think if you're thinking of applied research and thinking of working with industry, there's an awful lot of opportunities that Nserc offers. I'm going to tell you in detail what every one of these acronyms is over the next 2 hours and ruin James's schedule and drive you crazy. So I think what we're trying to show there is that we have a number of different ways that we approach this. We have programs that commercialize something that started under the guise of fundamental research, and a professor or a researcher says, wait a minute, this might have commercial potential. We now deal extensively with the college community, which we did not do 5 years ago. Maureen received when Bcit was still under our college classification, by their choice, she received one of our very first awards. That was what, 6 years ago maybe? Yeah, and so it's really changed in Nserc's world. We now put about 5% of our budget into the college community, whereas when I started we put something very much approaching 0. The other way we do it is, if the top line is sort of that technology push, the third line is the technology pull. So what we're saying there is, if companies have a problem, if companies have a technical issue, we can try and partner them with an academic researcher to solve that problem. And we have a series of programs under there. The other thing that we do is we provide money to companies so that they can hire students. And we do that at the undergraduate level, at the master's and PhD level, and at the postdoctoral level. What may be of interest, I think particularly to you guys, is the IUSRA. We would take a student and during a co-op term or a summer term, put them in a company and then pay the company $4,500 towards their salary. So for some of the relationships you're trying to start with industry, it's kind of a good way to get one of your students in there, get some practical experience, and see where that leads you. The other ones are the big stuff. Strategic partnerships is kind of taking a step back from a particular piece of technology or invention and look at something much broader. So the microgrid that Kim referred to, Bcit is the lead under a strategic project, strategic network grant that is valued at, well, literally millions of dollars. And they are working with the two other lead partners are UBC and U of T, but Bcit is the actual lead institute on that. The message I'm trying to give you there is think about what you want to do, and then give me a shout, because then I can discuss with each of you which one of these programs might fit what you want to do. It's a pretty rare week that I don't have a couple conversations with Stefan Joseph out of the Arlo office. He's always calling up with what ifs or individual questions on programs, so we know each other quite well. That's a little fuzzy, isn't it? Or is it just me? That's the names attached to each of those programs. And I think what's important is that you can go on our website and see the whole range of them. And the ones that are good for dealing with industry is we don't have particular deadlines. So that makes it easier as ideas come up rather than adhering to sort of annual schedules. Under the IUSRA one that you see under the training program, we actually did 400 of those in British Columbia last fiscal year, which is way out of whack with what it should be. That's about 1/3 of the totals in Canada, whereas you would expect BC to get about 15% of anything. I think why that has happened is a couple things. We have really strong relationships with all the co-op offices in co-promoting the program. And also, we now deliver this program directly out of our office downtown, and our turnaround on the student program is about 3 days, which kind of shocks people in the world of government, wouldn't you say, Laurie? It's like a baby miracle. About 4 years ago, Nserc took a step back from our operations, and we said, if our goal is for more academics to work with companies, what is inhibiting us from doing that? And we looked at the design of our existing programs, and then we went and had focus group sessions with academics and with industry groups on a sectoral basis. And we did 6 of those in British Columbia. We did about 30 of them across the country. And we took all that information and threw it back into the hopper and changed some of our programs, changed some of our policies, and created new programs. So an example of a significant change in policy is we used to dictate some elements of the intellectual property policy. So we used to say that if Nserc put money in, the de facto position was that the institute owned it. What we do now is we step back and say it's between the two parties. It's between the company and the institute, and they decide, and Nserc has no role in that. So it took us out of the negotiations, and that really helped. The other thing is we changed the review process on our existing programs to make them quicker, because a major complaint among industry is that we took too long to render a decision. And we made it a little simpler so that you see the proportions change, particularly in the increase in number of small companies, which we define as under 50, but in fact, if you looked at it at a level below, you would see a lot of companies even with less than 10 employees now, which we certainly would not have done back in 2008, 2009, and those kind of numbers. So it was kind of a neat exercise. We called it the Strategy for Partnerships and Innovation. What started it was when we looked at companies that we know do research, as demonstrated by putting in tax claims. We were only touching with 7% of those companies. And so we set a goal. arbitrarily of 15% or more than doubling that, thinking that the academic community in Canada has a strong history of publishing and probably is on par with any country in the world, but we're laggards in making those partnerships and then using that good research and somehow turning it into an economic benefit. And so it's been a lot of fun to be part of that process. One of the things that we really changed was a new program called Engage. And like the funny little picture there is that Pam put on here, I think it's like a first date grant, think of it that way. What we're trying to do here is forge a new collaboration between a researcher and a company. We will put in $25K cash that is spent at the academic institute. The company doesn't have to put in cash. The company owns the IP. And we thought we'd try this, and it's kind of rocketed off. As you can see, we're over 2,300 awards now across the country, with over 400 of these in British Columbia. It's been terrific for the companies who have never worked with academics to get involved in this. And what we're seeing also is we're drawing more academics who previously had only participated in our discovery-based programs to actually working with companies. So if you like, we've grown both the demand and the supply side of the equation to increase that participation. And again, BC has been a bit ahead of the curve for the numbers that you would expect. In other words, we're participating above our normal national participation rates. Now, where it goes, is, who knows? For the mathematicians in the crowd, you'll see a bit of a trend there. There's cycles that tie in with the academic year and summer vacations and everything, but basically we're in an upward trend. So I can tell you that my life kind of these days revolves around Engage because we have review meetings every 2 weeks. So we review proposals, we support about 85% of them, and then somewhere during the life of each of those 400 awards we've made, we contact the researcher and the company and say, how's it going? It's because we like to keep on top of these things because we like to keep the relationship going. And so I'm very privileged I get to go around and see a lot of really cool projects that are going, which is definitely the fun part of the job. Not surprisingly, because of the short duration and the applied nature of it, you can see they more or less is where you would expect the proposals to come from. Engineering and computing science collectively are like about 80% of the activity. It's not that we're biased against the others, it's just that the nature of the program kind of pushes those kind of projects towards Engage, whereas ones in the biological sciences, life sciences, probably need one of our other programs to develop that longer relationship. A couple BCIT ones, Nancy Paris, who I don't think is here, I haven't seen her here today. Anyway, she did one. Where's the other James gone? I've lost him. He left? Anyway, yeah, that's right. He mentioned that. He said, don't hurt your feelings if I walk out. So my feelings are only a little bit hurt. In fact, it wasn't an Alberta company that partnered with Bcit. This company is from Penticton. And I met with them, and they then introduced them to Nancy. Nancy did an Engage project with them that was quite successful. It allowed a functional prototype to put all these sensors in a skate so that you can see what's happening on a stride any number of different ways about its frequency, its length, the camber in and the toe, the camber out on the heel. And the goal is to probably sell this as a system to hockey schools, skate and training. And it's really quite amazing what they did under a short period of time. So the company was excited by that. They followed then up with CU I2I, which is a program that James had described. And that partners one company with one university and one college. And they recently received $250,000 from Nserc. And what will happen there is $125K will be spent at BCIT and $125K will be spent at SAIT. And collectively they'll work on the project, deliver the results to the company, and hopefully commercialize this in a product. Didn't see Jamie yet here. And I'm even confused on the Jamie spelling because I've seen it with 2 eyes and 1 eye, but I went with the single eye. Which one is it? 2 eyes? Okay, there you go. I got it wrong. Has anybody seen the television coverage on this company? Snug vests? No? So what a snug vest does is it gives you a hug. And autistic kids, if you know any autistic kids, they love to be hugged. It's a comforting thing to them. Anybody seen the movie Temple Grandin? Show of hands? One? Yeah. So same idea. Remember, she builds the wooden box when she's like studying for her master's in mechanical engineering, and it gives her a comforting feeling. So this started as a design project out of Emily Carr by the principal of the company. They have partnered up with Jamie to make it a more commercially looking, visually appealing product with built-in sensors that you can preset at the level you like, or if you're particularly young, as a safety control as well, so that you're not overpressuring. And if you look at them, that picture doesn't do it justice. They really just look like a fleece vest that you would buy. So it wouldn't jump out at you if you saw somebody wearing this. So that's another project that is it's really neat. They've got a lot of television coverage. They were on CTV interviewing the lady and demonstrating the product. And we've got great hopes for where that might lead. We hope that some of those projects will carry on to a project that or program that Nserc has offered for years, which is a collaborative research and development grant. The Engage one is the starter. You can start with this one, or you can follow on from an Engage with this to develop a longer relationship. There's no minimum, there's no maximum. As the slide says, they range from 10K to 500K. It usually comes down to two determining factors: how big is the problem, and how much cash does the company have that they can afford to contribute. So we certainly see them across that whole range, and we do hundreds of those. The leverage thing goes where $1 cash from the company will leverage $2 cash from Nserc, and the other dollar comes from the company from their in-kind contribution or their internal resources. Oops, missed that one. A stumbling block is, where do you find companies, right? You're busy with your own life and you don't get out and about and do these things. So we try to forge new partnerships three different ways. The Partnership Workshops program is a national one, though we do review them every 2 weeks at our teleconference meetings. That would be bringing people from academia, probably across the country, and companies as well, getting together in a one-day workshop and sort of looking forward and say, what are the research challenges in industry? What are the problems they're facing? And how can we identify some projects that are going to provide some solutions to those? So we would envision it being in a particular subject area and then leading towards submissions to our other grant programs in the future. So it's almost like a giant regional opportunity fund, which is the second one. We run those out of our office. They range from sort of $1,000 to about $5,000. Scenario there would be you could have an afternoon seminar, an evening seminar, pick a particular topic. It could be focused around one of the departments, one of the schools at Bcit, and you would bring in companies. And again, the idea is to introduce the abilities of the researchers to the companies and have a bit of a swap of a capability problem session and forge some new relationships. So we do, with our $125,000 budget out of the local office, we probably do about 30 or 40 of those each year, and we try to generate new relationships from that. The other thing that we do is travel grants. If you're working in a particular area and there are not companies located in the Lower Mainland because of the particular area of expertise that you work in, we will actually pay for travel to go and visit some companies in Alberta, in Ontario, in Quebec, to try and see if they are potential clients that you can work with. I don't think we've done one of those at Bcit yet, but there's no reason why we can't. Just a quick recap on the three options. I think obviously the first one is the most logical one. We'd like to see more of those coming from Bcit students to work with companies. Gives them real life experience for a 4-month term in either a co-op or summer term. And love to hear any questions, but not one that'll fall on my neck and break my neck, apparently. But any questions, fire away. Yes?
Okay.
Yeah, that's...
Could we repeat the question? So just
Yeah, so you're in the Faculty of Business. Yeah, it's a great question. Your only real option is to go through the world of Nserc under that one and see they now have some sort of applied options that are similar to our RPP ones. It's interesting because in the college program, they're technology agnostic. So if you recall one of the slides, I talked about growing under the colleges. That's now about 5% of our budget. We deliver that on behalf of the Tri-Council. So people put in proposals to Nserc that come from the CIHR, Nserc, and Nserc domain. But being a university, that door isn't open to you. So what I would suggest is contacting the outreach people in the Nserc for your particular option, unless it's very, very highly mathematical statistical computing, and then there may be a chance for Nserc. Because if you look at the three institutes, there's always a gray area, you know, where you sit. So give me a shout on an individual case.
Excellent. So any other questions? I see the hands emerge. Do you have any questions online by any chance? Okay, people are understanding. Excellent.
Great. Oh, sorry, yeah.
I have a question here. Just wait for the mic. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a thought. You were talking about interfacing between industry and researchers.
Yeah.
And I thought about the idea of virtual worlds. And it seems to me you could program little automated avatars in a virtual world so that somebody could visit BCIT online virtually and then go and talk to a researcher, not the real researcher, but an avatar created to answer questions as if they were the researcher. And that would make it more like a personal experience.
Yeah.
It would be gamerized, so it would be funner, more fun.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that expensive to have one
No,
of the animation companies put something like that together for us.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I wouldn't do companies. I would
or whatever.
challenge a student, right?
No, I'm just thinking, you know, we've got a big animation company right across the street from us here who do those kind of things in their sleep, basically. So.
Yeah, I mean, like under the Regional Opportunity Fund, we've got a lot of discretion in how we spend those money. It would be kind of neat to do something like that as a student project and throw a few $1,000s at it and see if they could come up with that. I mean, I don't think I'd want to pay a company to do it because that would be a little too commercial. But challenging a student and compensating them to do it, that'd be a cool idea. You can add that to your list.
We will add it to the list. Any other questions? I saw some people. I see a head scratch. Oh, no? Okay.
I'm going to be around when we break for coffee. My apologies, I have to leave after that just because of other commitments. But if you got an individual case, come up while we're having a coffee in a little bit and chat with me. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Rick.